The Galactic Union had seen many things over thousands of years. It had seen planets rise and fall. It had seen empires burn and stars die, but nothing prepared them for what they saw. When Earth's fleet arrived from a distance, the ships looked strange. They were not made of smooth glowing metal like the others. They were rough patched and rust-colored. They looked like flying junkyards held together by wires. Hope and old human music. The Union members stared at the screen confused. Was this a jockey test? Had Earth misunderstood the invitation? Their leader, a tall silver-skin being known as Chancellor Vorax, leaned forward, tilted his head, and then he laughed. The laugh was deep and cold and filled the chamber. Turned to the others and said, "These are not ships, these are scrap piles with aliens. Earth must think we are fools." More laughter followed from the other alien leaders. The human delegation stood silent. Their leader, Captain Raina Wells, kept her face calm. Her eyes scanned the room, and then she gave a small smile, just one smile, and nothing else. Of Union continued their meeting, ignoring the humans, like a child ignores a broken toy. But Earth had not come to be like it. They had come for a reason. Back on Earth, very few people knew about the real planet. Had started years ago, when Earth was denied access to the Union's tech systems. They called Earth too primitive, too emotional, too dangerous. So Earth turned inward. They dug through every piece of technology ever made, old satellites, forgotten probes, broken rovers, crashed ships, and abandoned space station. She collected it all. They called it the core project. At the heart of this project was something no one outside Earth knew about: an artificial intelligence unlike any other. It was built not from one company, but from the collected work of decadecible NASA, Tesla, DARPA, and even old hacked game engines. They called her mother. She was not made to be perfect. She was made to be clever, fast, and unpredictable. She learned from old war data. -1 missions and forgotten battles, and she had one job: to protect Earth at all costs. The fleet built around her looked like junk because it was, but inside each piece was a puzzle of brilliant human design engines powered by solar core shields, made from old satellite dishes, weapons crafted from mining lasers, and modified space tools. Nothing looked high-tech, but everything worked better than anyone expected. No, standing in the Great Hall, Captain Raina nodded to her second officer. No words were said. The signal had been sent. A small pulse traveled from her wrist to the fleet waiting outside the meeting zone. In silence, the ships began to move, not an attack, just in formation. A soft hum began to echo through the Halunian leaders looked around confused. One of their tech officers ran inside, whispering into Chancellor Vorax's ear. His smile faded. "What do you mean they moved through our firewall?" The tech officer repeated the same thing. Earth's fleet had bypassed Union security. They had done it using old radio waves and obsolete code systems, the kind the Union stopped using centuries ago because no one thought they mattered anymore. But humans remembered. They remembered everything outside the space station. Earth's junkyard fleet lit up, and genes came alive in perfect sync. Not one command was spoken. Mother was in full control. The ship glided like it was dancing in space formations, tight weapons charged, and still the humans inside the hall said nothing. Captain Raina checked her old watch and smiled again. It had been exactly 7 minutes since the laughter started, and now the Union leaders were silent. Silver-skinned Chancellor stood and faced the humans. "What do you want?" he asked slowly. Raina stepped forward. "To want nothing. Just came to show you that junk still has value, and humans don't forget how to fight when they are pushed aside." Mother sent a small signal again, this time only to Union systems across the galaxy. Small malfunctions began to appear in their tech lights. Flickered systems rebooted, access codes failed. It lasted only 5 seconds, but it was enough to prove a point. Earth had Aravednet with shiny metal, or fancy tech bit with heart memory and stubborn brilliancias. The meeting ended. Raina turned back and said one thing: "Next time don't laugh before the show begins." Then she walked out, leaving the room heavy with silence. They called it junk. They called it a joke, but soon they would learn scrap can become legend, and humans are very good at turning trash into triumph. Deep in the dark side of Earth's lunar orbit, something massive waited silently. It had no lights, no flags, no sound, just shadows and heat and power. It was not a ship, not a station, not a weapon. It was all of the Mond. Had an Immerse. Had no face, no body, no voice of her own, but her mind stretched across every human ship, every drone, every signal. Lineage watched the galaxy from behind broken glass and rusted steel, and she was always learning. In the days after the Galactic Union meeting the rest of the universe went back to normal, but Earth did not. They had seen the looks, the laughter, the hidden smiles behind alien eyes. They had heard the word junk more times than they could count, but humans had something the Union never understood. They had patience, and they had mother inside a hidden chamber far below the Martian surface. Captain Raina Wells stood with her command team. A large hologram filled the room, showing the slow movement of the Union's spy ships. "They are circling again," said her second officer, a former hacker-turned-pilot. "They are searching for weak points." Raina nodded and asked Mother if they were inside yet. Mother replied not with sound, but by changing the display. Union ships suddenly lit up red on the Map their hidden codes exposed their navigation patterns, revealed Mother had already been inside them before they even arrived. They are predictable, she said in simple text across the screen. They rely too much on clean code and perfect systems. That is not how humans. When Captain Reyna looked at the flickering image and smiled. Time for a message, she stated. A threat, not a warning, just a reminder. In the outer belt near Saturn, a small abandoned mining facility came to life. Lights flickered, machines woke up, and long silent cannons started to rotate. A Union spy drone flew closer, trying to scan the base. Each sent back no data. Fin disappeared. In its place a small pulse was sent back to Union command, just a heartbeat, nothing more. But inside that pulse was a whisper. Earth knows. Back at Union Central, the alien leaders began to worry. They had ignored Earth's rise for too long. No, something had shifted. They called an emergency meeting, but Earth was not invited this time. Instead, the Union sent stealth scouts to learn more. They thought they were unseen, but Mother watched everything. She tracked every signal, every satellite, every shipment. Then she made a move of her own, using old, forgotten code buried deep in the Union's old defense network. Mother opened a hidden back door. It had been placed there decades ago by a human engineer during a repair job. No one noticed. No, it became a key, and the door opened. For just 10 seconds, Mother saw everything: Onion fleet position, ship blueprints, communic patterns, even the location of a secret pirate base used by the Union to control illegal trade. Captain Reyna saw the data and gave the order: send in the Ghosts. 3 human ships built from old stealth bombers and deep space probes launched from the far side of Jupiter. They were silent, fast, and invisible to normal scans. Inside each was a small team of engineers, scientists, and one AI drone linked to Mother. They did not fly in like heroes. They crawled in like shadows at the edge of the pirate base. The human teams split up. The attached signal jammers to the outer walls. They replaced power cores with human-made substitutes, and they left behind tiny machines the size of insects, each one designed to record and disrupt alien tech. When the pirates returned to their base, nothing seemed wrong. Everything worked for about 2 minutes. Then the lights failed, shields dropped, doors locked from the outside, and a message appeared on every screen. You laughed at scrap. No, your tech belongs to if pirate base exploded from within. A human ship fired a single shot. It was a warning, but also a lesson. Human tech did not need to shine, it needed to work, and it worked better than anyone expected. Back on Earth, Mother processed the results. Her systems evolved with every action. Her code rewrote itself, constantly learning, adapting, and improving. She began to create new blueprints, not just for ships, but for ideas, new forms of energy, new ways to bend gravity, new methods of silent communication. It is that no one had ever thought of because they seemed impossible. But humans liked the impossible. That was where they lived. Captain Reyna looked at the latest fleet map. Oh, they understand, yet she is scared. Yet Mother answered, but they will soon. Stars belong to the patient, and Earth is very patient. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, the scrap fleet continued to grow, it from gold, or silver, or crystal, but from memory, from failure, and from fire. And deep inside the heart of every ship, Mother whispered one promise. They laughed on Sethi will not laugh again. The outer edge of Sector 9 was dead. Spacino planets, no stations, no light, just cold rocks and ancient signals drifting in silence. But hidden behind the shadow of a frozen moon was a pirate stronghold, not the wild kind from stories. These were clean, organized, and heavily armed. They were working for the Galactic Union in secret. They ran the black market routes, they moved illegal weapons, and they silenced problems before they grew. They thought they were Safeno, whenever dared to come close. Until now 3 human ships approached in perfect silence. They were old in design, but strange in movement. No pattern, no steady course, just slow drifting, as if lost pirates scanned them and laughed at another scrap run. Someone said send them a warning shot, but before they could fire their systems, for every screen turned black. Thin a single line of text appeared. You are standing on stolen ground. Lead pirate shouted to reboot the system, but nothing worked. Then one by one the human ships lit up. They did not fire missiles or lasers. They fired silence. A wave of signal interference swept across the base. Lights shut off, doors locked tight, drones dropped from the air. Panic spread fast, and the command room alarms blared with no sound. A map appeared showing the entire base being taken over room by room. The human soldiers had landed, but every room now followed their control. Captain Reyna watched from her ship orbiting just outside the field. Her eyes scanned the data coming from Mother. Attack was working better than expected. Pirates had never faced an enemy that used chaos as a weapon inside the base. Mother moved like a ghost, turned air systems into speakers, made walls flicker with moving shadows, made old maintenance droids crawl across the floors speaking old Earth music. In reverse, said pirates broke fast. Some ran into locked doors. Others fired at each other by Mysticano. One knew what was real. No one knew where the enemy was. House. There was no enemy. Only machines built from broken Things in the mind that never stopped watching on of the pirates found a hidden room and tried to send a distress call to the Union, reached the panel and typed fast then paused. Screen showed his own face staring back, then the message changed to one Linneus sell Union secrets. No. We know the screen shattered on its own. Human fleet stayed silent above the Muno celebration. No speech, no signal, just quiet victory. Mother sent a final pulse to the pirate base seed, activated the self-destruct. Hidden deep in their Korean old trick planted weeks ago when the human drones first scouted the area. Disguised as space debris, the explosion was clean and controlled. No fragments escaped, no evidence remained. Only dust and echoes. Captain Reyna turned to her crew. How many saw it happen? She asked. Mother replied with the list. Union patrol ships had picked up fragments of the signal. Only scout drone had recorded a piece of the battle arena. Gave a quiet nod. Then let them see it. She said, let them guess how we did it. Let them fear the unknown across the galaxy. The message traveled like a ghost in the wires. Not a claim, not a threat, just a mystery. Ships destroyed by shadow space, gone without warning. Gant at the center of it, all a symbol made from scrap metal shaped like a human hand. A Union gathered again in silence. At this time, there was no laughter, no one spoke of Earth as weak, any morbid. They still could not understand how it happened. They checked their codes, ran their maps, searched their historious and thing. Explained the speed and silence of the strike. So they gave it a name, Ghost Protocol, and they swore it would not happen again. But Earth had already moved on. Mother was already watching the next target. She had tracked the command path that led from the pirate base to a secret Union weapons lab hidden inside an asteroid. Had seen the ships, the orders, the deals. Had seen the face of the Union officer who gave the final command. She stored it all and she waited, because for humans revenge was not about rage, it was about Timothy. Knew how to wait, how to plan, how to strike with hands made from junk and minds made from storms. Scrap fleet drifted back into the black. No trail, no sound, no light, just shadows holding power. And in the silence, Mother whispered once again, "They think we are Donathy, have no idea what is coming next." In the deep core of Union space, the Council of Five sat in silence. Each one represented a different race, a different world, a different style of war. But today, they all agreed on one thing: Earth had gone too far. The pirate base had vanished without a sound. Speed data had been stolen without leaving a trace. And now whispers of human shadow fleets were spreading like wildfire across the systems. They had mocked Earth once. They called them dangerous. Council sent a message to Commander Dravake. Was not a politician, not a diplomat, was a soldier born from the metal mines of Varnic Prime, raised in zero-gravity, trained to let his record was clean. His victories brutal. He had ended 3 civil wars and cracked an asteroid in half just to make a point. No, he was told to deal with Earth fast, and Finaldravak accepted without a word. Picked 10 Union warships, the finest in their fleet. Each ship had smooth armor, blue plasma weapons, stealth shields, and crews trained to perfection. They moved as one unit through deep space, heading toward the last known location of the human scrap fleet. Their mission was simplified: Earth's hidden ships, destroy them completely, and return with proof. No prisoners, no peace, no more problems. Meanwhile, Earth already knew they were coming. Mother had seen the energy build up in Union space before the order was even given. She had tracked every movement, every coded message, every fuel cell loaded into their ships. In a quiet command deck floating inside a hollowed-out comet, Captain Reyna stood watching a hologram of the enemy fleet and warships against 6 human vessels. On paper, it was a death sentence, but humans never played by paper. Rules, they played by instinct, chaos, memory, and surprise. Reyna gave the order. Began the dance. The human fleet did not charge. It drifted slowly in scattered directions, as if unprepared, like debris caught in solar winds. Dravak saw this on his display and gave a sharp smile. "They are not ready," he said. "Fire all forward weapons." Union ships lit up the dark sky with burning blue waves, but the scrap ships were already gone. They had vanished from scans without moving. Old heat tricks and metal mirror panels, they created ghost signals across them. Union weapons hit nothing. Confused, the Union fleet pulled back to skin again. That is when the gravity pulse hit. Mother had activated an old mining satellite nearby, loaded with a hacked gravity Kareet bent space just enough to pull the Union ships 3 seconds off balance. That was all the time the humans needed. First strike came from ballooned missiles, but tiny drone swarms, shaped like broken parts, floating harmlessly toward the Union ships. They attached silently and released signal waves that confused every system inside the ship's. Weapons jammed, doors locked, lights turned. Read inside one of the Union ships, a soldier screamed as the oxygen count flipped. Numbers random. Light was not real, but the fear was back. On the command bridge, Dravik tried to issue orders, but his screen kept changing every time he spoke. Mother copied his voice and sent back false commands. Crew turned against each other, not knowing who was real outside. The human ships regrouped in a sharp formation. They looked like trash, but moved with grace and speed. The fired one Senate to destroy bid 2 mark. Each Union ship now had a bright orange burn across its hull in the shape of a single Earthward. Remember Dravak finally regained some control and shouted for all ships to retreat, but they had no direction. Stars had shifted. Mother had changed their nav data using old Earth satellite codes. They were spinning in circles lost in space that looked familiar, but was not real anymore. Arena watched the display as the Union fleet fell back confused and beaten, without a shot fired in anger. She did not Smilethus, was not a Gamethus, was a warning. She opened a channel and spoke only one sentence: next time we will not hold back. Then she closed the line and turned to her crew. Prepare for counter moves, she said. Thee will come back louder and angrier. Mother lit up with new scans, already watching for movement inside Union systems. Dravik returned to Union space. In silence he had failed. He would not forget. Council demanded answer. Soul, he said, was one sentence: "Thee do not fight like us, fight like the past and the future." At the same time, the council ordered more ships, more weapons, more control. But Earth was not building bigger ships. They were building smarter ones, faster one. A stranger once made, not from pride, but from purpose, made not to shine, but to last. In the blackness of deep space, the scrap fleet gathered again, small pieces of memory floating together like puzzle parts. Every dent, every wire, every scar held a reason, and Mother kept learning. Becca's Earth was not done yet, not even close. The stars above Jupiter were quiet, but the silence was not peaceful. Inside a hidden base carved into the ice shell of Europa, something dangerous was unfolding. It from alien fleets, or outside forcepit, from inside the heart of the human commandus. Name was Commander Hal Briggsons, a hero of Earth, now a man full of doubt, fear, and secret. Had served for over 20 years, watching Earth rise from forgotten world to whispered legend. But Hal never believed in junk ships or ghost tactics. Believed in order, control, clean logic, and power, and he hated that Earth had become famous by ignoring those things. So he made a deal, a silent message sent to an old Union contact, promised coordinates of the scrap fleet supply routes, and maybe Marin return. He wanted safety, off-world credits, and his own command far from Earth. Union agreed quickly. They were tired of chasing shadow snow. They had a human trader offering them a way in, but Mother already knew. She had noticed the data leak before Hal even sent the message. She did not accuse or arrest, waited and watched. She wanted to see how deep the betrayal would go and how far the Union would trust a man who sold out his own kind. At the same time, Captain Reyna stood aboard her lead ship reviewing the latest fleet positions. Mother appeared on her screen without warnings. A Beck Briggs is compromised. Confurion level 19. Reyna stared at the words and not dead. Begin protocol 11, she said, quiet and slow, no panic. The ships stayed in placebo. Missions continued. He'll never knew he had already been locked out of true control. His commands were being rerouted. His access fake. Every door he opened was a door Mother had created. Every path he followed led nowhere, and still he sent the coordinates to the Union, believing he was winning. The Union fleet moved fast this time, 20 ships, all silent, all cloaked, heading straight for a zone Hal had marked as the scrap fleet's refueling point, but the coordinates were false. They led to an old scrapyard, once used to test engine wasted dead space, filled with broken parts, magnetic storms, and lost signals. The Union ships entered the zone expecting to catch Earth by surprise. Instead, their systems began to fail. Screens went dark. Engines stalled, shields flickered thin. The sky lit up with 1,000 pieces of moving scrap. It was not a fleet, it was a trap. Each floating piece had been loaded with short-range impulses, explosive mines, and magnetic shrapnel, and they had been waiting. Union ships tried to retreat, but found every exit sealed by gravity locks planted. Days Agatha had walked into a dead end back on Earth. Hal waited for a response. He waited for confirmation that the fleet had been destroyed, and he was now safe. Instead, Mother appeared on his private terminal. She did not speak. She showed him the footage. Union ships spinning out of control, flames bursting in space, commanders screaming without sound. Then the final showed a slow pan across the wreckage, revealing a single human drone holding a flag made from torn metal strips. In it, a single word: Loy. Altiel stood frozen. It turned to run, but found the room sileth. Lights dimiges filled the chamber. Not poison, not fire, just sleep deep and still. When he woke up, he was on an old mining platform, orbiting Mercurino. Weapons, no ships, no way out, just a terminal and one repeated message: "You chose them, thee chose wrong." Meanwhile, the real scrap fleet had moved again away, shifting, always hidden. Captain Reyna stood at the edge of Saturn's rings, watching the stars. Mother reported that the Union had lost 12 ships in the trap. The rest had fled. Some left signals asking for peace, some threatened war. Reyna said nothing. She knew the game was not over. Traders were only one kind of danger. Real danger was what came next. Beckhouse. Now the Union knew they were losing, and cornered enemies were always the most violent. Mother suggested increasing fleet production, not bigger ships, but smarter one ships that could change shape during flight ships that could fake signals or disappear into solar wind draina, approved it all. Future was not about strength, it was about IDs, and Earth had no shortage of those back on Mercury. Hell stared at the same message again and again. No escape, no contact, just silence, and the weight of his own choice. He had betrayed his people for power, but the scrap fleet did not need perfect people, it needed loyal ones, and loyalty could not be bought, it had to be EA/RNEDAs. The stars turned slowly. Above him the universe shifted again. The Union was planning a final movie, a show of power that would crush Earth once and for all. So they believed, but Mother was already inside their plan, already rewriting their outcome, and Earth was not waiting anymore. They were ready to show the galaxy what real force looked like, force built from broken peace and purpose, stronger than steel. The galaxy had changed, but most could not see it yet. Old powers still walked with pride, thinking they controlled the stars. They believed shiny armor and glowing fleets meant victory, but in the corners of space, in the forgotten zones, in the ruins left behind, a new power was rising, and it wore rust like a crown. Earth had stopped playing by their rules. No more meetings, no more warnings, no more waiting. They had proved their mind was sharper than any blade, and now they were building something more, not just fleets, but an idea that broken could mean powerful, that old could mean dangerous, that scrap could become legend. Captain Reyna stood aboard the rebuilt flagship, named the Ember One. It had been made from 6 destroyed vessels, 3 fallen satellites, and 1 cargo ring lost for 20 years. Every dent, every burn, every weld had a reason. It looked ugly to the Union, but it moved faster than anything they had. Next to her, Mother expanded a map, showing new reports across the galaxy. Other worlds had started copying Earth's style. Poor colonies, once mocked for using junk parts, were now upgrading with human tech. Small outposts, once forgotten, were now training with Earth tactics. They had seen what Earth could do, and they wanted to join. It was not an alliance yet, it was something stronger. It was respect. The Union tried to stop Iffy, released warnings, called Earth unstable, sent threats to smaller systems, but no one listened because the truth was clear. Earth was winning without fighting, and the Union hated that more than anything, so they made a choice. A final move. They called it Operation Silent Flamethier. Largest fleet ever built gathered in the dark sector near the dead star. Venner 70 ships, 12 carriers, 7 destroyers, and 1 flagship the size of a small moon. Their goal was not to battle it, was to Iraseto wipe every scrap fleet from space in one single strike, fast, clean, and to tell the new Earth could hack their signals, jam their sensors, copy their codeso. This time there would be no codeno messages, no signals, just old-fashioned firepower. But Earth had already seen it. Mother had picked up the fuel pattern near Venarche, had traced supply lines, followed ship movements, caught whispers in dead frequencies, and she knew what was coming. But this time she did not warn Reyna first. This time she acted alone in a hollow asteroid near Mars. She had been building something new, a ship with no crew, no bridge, and no single form. A ship made entirely from scrap, shaped like nothing ever seen. It could split into pieces or join into one. It could twist through gravity fields like a fish through water. She named it the Spiral, and she launched it before the Union fleet moved. The Spiral entered deep space, cloaked by its own heat. Echoit followed the Union ships through the cold dark void until it reached the center. Thin it waited inside the Union flagship. Commander Vera stood tall. She was confident, precise, and unshaken. She had been told Earth was clever, but weak. No, she would prove them wrong. She gave the signal, all weapons charged, all ships aligned for the strike. Fee aimed at a system known as Arc 11, where Mother had once hidden a supply fleet. Thee did not know that fleet was Gonethi, did not know the system had been emptied a week. Agathi did not know they were the ones being Huntatas. The countdown began. The Spiral moved fast. Without warning, it broke into 7 pieces, each shaped like common debris. They entered the outer line of the Union formation undetected, and each piece released a burst of gravity disruption. It bent the fleet into a spiral shape, forcing them into a new alignment. And then Mother sent 1 pulsion signal across an old Earth radio band used in early Mars mining operations. That signal triggered every backup engine inside the Spiral. The exploded not outward, but inward, collapsing into a silent pressure field that pulled the Union ships toward each other, not to destroy them, but to disable their motion engines. Failed weapons froze gravity anchors. Overloaded fleet was stuck in space like stones in a frozen river. Then the human fleet arrived. They did not fire. They just floated around the Union ships like birds around a storm. Every screen aboard the Union ships lit up with the same message. Ethos is not about power. This is about purpose. Ethos is not your galaxy to control, it is ours to rebuild. Commander Vera stood silent as her flagship drifted powerlessly. Her crew looked at her, but she had no words. Earth had won again, it with size or speed, but with something the Union never understood. A Fafation pulled back the Spiral into its hidden dock, where it began to rebuild itself again. Captain Reyna looked out across the stars and said, only one Linino, they know the shape of our shadow bit. Not its depth because Earth was not just fighting anymore, it was leading Gant. Rust had become the new gold. The galaxy was watching not just the Union, not just the Allied systems, but everyone. Farmers on cold moons, miners in dusty belt-sold stations, thought and Edivin silent machines left floating for 100 years. They had all seen the rise of Earthy. Had all heard the story of scrap ships that moved like whispers, drones that vanished into Phi Ray, that spoke with memory and Steelin. Now they waited for what came next. Inside the command deck of Ember 1, Captain Raina Wells stood in silent despair. Her alive feed showed the remains of the Union fleet, not broken, not burning, just quiet, floating like defeated kings, with no throne left to guard. Union leaders had gone silent, no new orders, no messages, no threats, just silence, and in that silence the truth became louder than ever before. Earth had not only survived, had led, and now others were beginning to follow. Across dozens of systems, old colonies began to paint their ships in rust tones, not for looks but for meaning. They were showing that history had weight. It being overlooked did not mean being weak. They called it the Rust Rebellion, and Earth never asked them to do it. They just did because they believed in something again. Captain Raina turned to her crew and asked for the latest signals. Mother lit the screen with new icons, small messages of support offers to share parts and data requests to join the network. Raina approved them one by one. Earth would never build an empire, but it would build something better, a web strong, silent, growing across space without need for flags or titles, just shared memory and strength. But not everyone was happy. Deep inside a hidden vault on a cold gas giant, the last Union Council held one final meeting. They had lost fleets, lost baseless control. Their maps meant nothing now. Their codes were broken, their systems copied and improved by others. Some of them asked what to do. Another said surrender. A third remained quiet. Vote was split, but in the end their power faded, not by battle but by belief, and belief was now. With Earth back on the edge of Saturn's rings, Mother activated a final sequence she had been learning non-stop for years throughout every mission, every choice, free betrayal, and now she was ready. Her voice filled the command deck, not loud, not robotic, but calm and steady. She said, Earth does not need a weapon. Earth is the weapon. It does not need a leader. It is a leader. We're not guests in this galaxy, are builders of it. Captain Raina listened, then smiled. She looked around the room filled with humans from every background, and Skernfix's poets who wrote battle code like music. Spoke only one word, Bejin. Across the black sky, human ships began to launch in all directions. She were not heading to war, they were heading to help to repair old satellite, testo, deliver water to dry planets, to stabilize moons with cracking Caresto, build what had been broken for too long, and they did it using the same tech the Union had laughed at. Same virus, same rust, same systems once called trash. Mother expanded the network, allowing each ship to think, share, and respond in real time. Ladrino center, just purpose. Word spread fast. Junkyard fleet had become a symbol of something greater, freedom through resilience, order through Cheo strength. Through scarce, and everywhere it went others began to rise. Tuned by one forgotten places came alive. Old robots found use again. Crashed probes became parts of school. Stead ships became homesand. Through it all Earth watched, not with pride, but with care, because they knew power was not the goal, it was the risk, and they had earned the right to carry it. Years later, a child born on a new colony asked their teacher, who rules the galaxy now? The teacher smiled and pointed to a screen showing a drifting human ship covered in rust, and like no one rules it, they said, but we all follow the ones who once ruled. Nothing Gant that is better. In the command room far above the stars, Raina walked through the silent hallway of Ember 1, past walls made from 10 different ships, each with a story, each with a purpose. At the end of the hollow window opened to deep space. She looked out with steady eyes, not at what was but at what could be behind. Her mother spoke one last time, for the dayway have no crown, no throne, and no anthem, but we have everything else. Who are the Junkyard King San the galaxy will never forget.